I'm Kortney Wilson, and this is the Shit Stick of Life podcast. My guest today is media personality Caitlin Green, and let me just tell you, my conversation with her was a real tough one. I am a mom of 3 children. I carried 2 of them to term and adopted my 3rd, and about my worst nightmare for any mother is experiencing the loss of a baby after carrying the baby to term. So I really had to question whether or not I could even handle this interview. But let me tell you, Caitlin is a gem. And without further ado, I would like for you to hear her story. Caitlin Green, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you for having me.
It is called the Shit Stick of Life, so I hear a lot of really sad stories. But it's going to be sad when your producer hands you toilet paper.
I saw that.
Before the interview. So, we were just talking about whether or not we've met before, but you used to have, do you still do a show on Jam FM? Okay.
No.
You used to do the show with Marilyn Dennis.
Exactly.
And I believe that I've done that show before.
No, you for sure have. Because when you mentioned the name of the show, I was like, oh no, that's familiar.
Yeah.
So,
Masters of Flip Days.
Yeah.
And so I think our paths have crossed before.
Sure.
But for sure, I've seen you on other podcasts.
Yeah.
So, and you're amazing.
Thank you.
So you could actually probably do this interview. Let's be real.
I just started interviewing you. So.
Yeah, exactly. So tell me a little bit about yourself. First of all, you're Canadian.
Canadian as heck. Born and raised here in Toronto.
Canadian as heck. That's so right. Canadian.
I know.
Born and raised in Toronto. Tell me a little bit about your family and your upbringing and how you ended up, being a radio personality.
Oh, well, how I wound up being a radio personality is funny because it's very backwards. I actually went to school to make documentaries.
So, where did you go?
I went to a little college here called Sheridan.
I know Sheridan.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that was what I ended up majoring in. And I remember I was wedding dress shopping actually, and I ran into one of my old camera teachers and she was asking me, oh, so what are you doing now? And I said, I'm in radio. And she was like, okay, so the camera class didn't really come in handy.
I love that.
The opposite. So I wound up filling in for a mat leave. And it was for an associate producer role on the Chum Morning Show, huge morning show in Toronto. Obviously, Marilyn Dennis, iconic.
So wait, you just get a call and you're going to fill in for somebody?
Yeah, I knew
not as a producer, but on air?
As a producer.
Oh, as a producer.
So their associate producer for the morning show was on mat leave and they needed somebody rather quickly. It was sort of time sensitive.
Yeah.
And I got wind of the job. I went in and met with their producer and it was just a good personality match and timing. So they said, come on in. And I immediately began getting up at 4 a.m. and going in and doing the job. And I really liked the environment. I just liked the live nature of immediately you turn your microphone on, you're talking to people about what's going on today. The vibes were very, very good. It was people who had been working together for a long time. They were real pros. And I got a kick out of it. And my role just kind of grew and grew over the years. And Marilyn Dennis was the one who suggested that I do an hourly segment called What's Trending, because I was always updating them on what was going on in the world.
You were the young gun.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, we have a millennial in the room. So maybe, so I, being chronically online, wound up doing these segments all the time. And I had already been joining in on the show, talking about just life and travels and whatever for a different perspective. And so it was kind of through that I started doing it, and my role changed and I became an official on-air contributor, and I did it for 14 years.
So I knew Marilyn when she had her TV show. Was it called the Marilyn Dennis show?
Yep.
Yeah. She had me on several times and she was super, super lovely. But usually when you do a PR tour, you would do the rounds, on any given day. And so I would go and do radio in the morning. So that is a tough gig.
Oh my gosh.
Waking up at 4 a.m.
It's no joke, especially when you're in your 20s. I was young and I think there was probably at least 2 shows where I didn't go to bed.
Really?
And I just went right to work.
Crazy.
I don't think they would have known that, but.
Really?
Yeah, probably not.
They probably did, actually.
Maybe.
Okay, so before, when you were growing up, you had aspirations of being, in the entertainment industry. Did you have aspirations? I know for me when I was growing up, and which is completely different than how I'm raising my kids, but I knew that I wanted to be a singer. I knew that I wanted to be a mom. I knew that I wanted to be married. I knew that I was going to move to Nashville. I don't feel like not that I felt pigeonholed, by the way, but I don't feel like I'm raising my kids with any sort of parameters. It's almost like I'm trying to make them think outside of the box, but that's not how I was. How was your upbringing that way?
I wish I was like you, because I wish that I knew where I wanted to go, or I knew what I liked, but I never really did. I think the first job I ever remember really wanting as a child was to be an animator. And at other points I thought, oh, maybe I'll be a child psychologist, and I thought about all these different career paths, and entertainment didn't really pop up until I was in high school. And we had drama classes in high school. And actually the high school that I went to, they shot part of Mean Girls at. And you know the scene where they do the Christmas dance?
Yeah, I know the scene.
That's
the scene Mean Girls.
I know, we could probably from memory.
We could actually do the dance probably.
No. So that was my high school auditorium. And so,
oh my God.
And I remember going into that class, and the physical space felt so good. It was just I loved the chairs in the audience. I loved the spotlights. I loved being on stage. And that was the only time where I really started to feel like perhaps this avenue is of interest to me, because I also am probably undiagnosed ADD.
Okay.
And I found it super hard to sit still and focus in many of my classes. I did really well in law. I did really well in debate. I did really well in drama. And so I think where you kind of stayed active and in the moment, I did well in those classes. So I thought about maybe doing that. But back in the day, there was no creator economy. There were no influencers. So when you went to your guidance counselor to talk about applying for universities, they weren't telling you to go into dramatic arts.
Oh my gosh, it's changed so much. So I mean, my assistant now went to school for social media marketing.
Oh my, see?
Like what the heck?
Yeah.
That wasn't even a thing. It's barely a thing now.
Yeah, because now they know that there's money in this.
Mm-hmm.
Back then everyone just said, no, go get your Bachelor of Arts, become a lawyer, become a doctor. And it was sort of not very creative. And I was steered, I would say, in the wrong direction. And I was a bit rudderless. Like I was kind of a party girl in high school. I wasn't that scholastically inclined. So I do think I would have benefited
You sound very scholastic by saying I was not that scholastically inclined.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't an idiot, but I didn't care to sit in class. I'll say that.
Did you have aspirations of being a mother back then?
No. Oh my gosh, no. Absolutely not. And for the longest time, I really, quite the opposite, didn't think I wanted children at all. I also never thought I would get married until I met my now husband. I really didn't think I was going to get married. I remember one of the things, and I've talked about this on the podcast I'm on with Jan Arden before, but one of my teen year memories I had was the Notorious B.I.G. music video.
Oh my God.
For Hypnotize,
yes.
where they're on a speedboat with bottles of champagne going to a party. I remember seeing that and thinking, I want to do that.
Yeah.
I would like to be on that speedboat having champagne with them, actually. That seems like a really good time.
That actually still sounds like a good time.
I know.
Minus the P. Diddy stuff.
Yeah,
it all sounds
minus
like a
him.
good time.
No. Yeah, we'll take him.
He's out now.
He's out.
Okay, so when did you get married? When did you meet your now husband?
Oh, I'm terrible at this.
I'm going to say just your husband. When I say now husband, it sounds like you have a future husband coming.
Oh, no. No, we've been married for 10 years and we've been together for 14 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you met each other, did you talk about having children?
No.
He was also in the same boat of like, hey, we're just like
I think he kind of read the room.
B.I.G. in this stuff.
Yeah. Well, and I think he could tell from me that I was never like TikTok, let's get married, let's have kids. I was very just down for whatever. I just was like, oh, we like each other's company.
But you were also in your 20s when you met him.
Yes, I was.
That's different.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people aren't doing that now. They're like serial dating until they're like 30s or 40s. And then they're like trying to have kids in their 40s and then wondering why they can't get pregnant.
Yes. Well, I'm an elder millennial. And so I feel we met and got together before dating apps. So there was none of that going on. We met because he is cousins with one of my best friends from high school.
He is cousins with one of your best friends.
Yeah. From
and
high
is
school.
that how you met?
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So you meet, you're like having a good time. He proposes, you get married.
Yep.
And at no point you're like, we have to have children.
Nope.
Okay.
The opposite kept happening. Everyone else was doing it. We were by far the anomaly in our group of friends. Everyone else is having kids, especially everyone else who got married around the same time as us. Yeah. And we're just not. We're still having fun. We're traveling. We're seeing friends. We're focusing on our careers. And I think it was sort of the pandemic that kind of did it.
Really? You're bored.
I mean, not
You're
bored.
Like, let's have a baby.
It was the pandemic, but we felt old. And I remember we were coming home from a friend's house one night and we both were just in the Uber kind of being like, how much longer are we going to do the same thing? Wow. It just started to feel the same. And I didn't really ever get serious about it until I thought, you know what, this is the right time because it feels like it will be a good challenge. And I know it's not going to be easy.
So you decide that you guys are going to have or try to have a baby.
Yeah.
And you're on the air, by the way, at this time,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
So and one of the questions that I had was like, did you always feel obligated to share your personal stories while you were on the air?
No, I think that wasn't really the format of our show. I mean, radio is so set to short form conversations. It's really soundbitey, and you'll have some longer form conversations, but you've got a clock in your face. And so it's a lot of talking about entertainment and what's going on in the world. And we give little snippets of our lives, but
yeah, like, did you hear this happen? You know, did you hear this celebrity?
Yeah. And if I had a funny story, I would share it. But typically these types of things aren't, funny stories per se, like talking about if I'm going to have a kid or not.
Yeah.
So it was more funny stories from my life. I mean, people would talk about like getting married, but it also was around the same time that it almost felt as if it was uncouth to ask women about trying to have kids. So it never really came up on the air.
Uncouth. Wow. Maybe you are academia. I don't even know it.
I like books.
Okay, good. She's like, I read.
Yeah.
Okay, so you decide that you guys are going to, do you get pregnant right away?
Yep.
And this is what year? This is 2021?
I should know this. I'm so bad with
No,
dates.
it's okay.
This was, I'm like summer of the first major lockdown here.
So 2020. Not that long ago.
No, really
Okay.
not that long ago.
So do you get pregnant right away?
Right away. Irritatingly early.
Yeah, same. I got pregnant on the first run.
And I say this with love in my heart for all of my deep friendships where they struggle.
I know.
But I thought, because I have so many friends who did struggle, that I was thinking I'm probably going to be a few months, and it was just hello.
That's how it was for me too. And I actually have felt guilty about telling that story because so many people struggle with infertility. So I'm always like, we tried, we got pregnant. We're really grateful though, and we're really lucky. And I always feel like I've got to back it up with like some sort of version of self-deprecation. But
yeah, I do want to quantify it because I'm aware from my friends. But yeah, still it happens. It's still what happened to you and I. It's still an honest take on how this went for us. And there's feelings about it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let me stop right now and say that, we're going to get into some heavy stuff and some of this can be really triggering. And I always forget to do a bit of a trigger warning. So let this be it for everyone.
Yes.
There's a little bit of trauma here related to her pregnancy. And so if this is a trigger for you, please pause and decide when you're ready to listen. So you get pregnant and you're excited.
Yes.
You're nervous or you're like, heck yeah, let's do this.
I'm
Because there are two different types of pregnant mothers to me.
I might be a third, where I was mostly kind of just very chill.
Okay, I was super chill.
Yeah, I just was I had a very good pregnancy. I had a very easy pregnancy. I did not have morning sickness. I was sort of...
Oh, wait. I just started to hate you a little.
Yeah. I felt like, okay. And it was also because it was lockdown time for us here.
Right.
Because it was huge lockdowns. Like we had very extended, strict lockdowns.
You did. I was here for some of it.
Yeah. So because of that, I was broadcasting from home. I was broadcasting from my dining room table.
Okay, so were you talking to your listeners
No.
about being pregnant?
No.
Nobody knew you were pregnant.
No one knew I was pregnant, and I didn't tell anyone. We didn't reveal it on the air until I was probably in my third trimester. And even my co-host and nobody else at work knew, just out of, kind of cautiousness. So, and I could get away with it because I was big when I was pregnant, but you couldn't see. Yeah.
Yeah, everyone thought I was having twins. They'd say things like, when do you do? And I'd say, in 3 months. They're like, oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, you look like you're about to pop.
Yes.
We're going to get into this because we say really stupid and silly things to people.
Yeah.
And it's just a part of life.
Yeah.
And everyone has a different perspective on this. Like, I think I can't wait to talk to you about once people know your story and once we've revealed that about how you feel about people putting their foot in their mouth, because that is so interesting.
Yes. I do it a lot.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if I do it today,
oh my God,
my apologies in advance.
Don't worry about it.
So when you get pregnant, I know I told people I took the test and started telling everybody, and people would immediately say to me, "Oh my goodness, aren't you nervous if something happens, like that you're telling people too early that you're pregnant?"
Oh.
And I remember thinking, well, if something happens and I lose this baby, I am going to feel really crappy and I'm going to need some support.
100%. I'm exactly of that mind.
You are?
Yeah,
Okay.
100%. I get why there's this old school way of thinking, because for some people, maybe they may not want to reveal that, or they may not want that out there for public discussion, but it's personal. Yeah. So I don't think there is a steadfast right way to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is called the Shit Stick of Life podcast.
That's right.
And
I got one.
You've got one.
Dark
You've
laughter.
Got
I have a very dark
laughter. Okay.
I have a very dark, dry sense of humor. So if I laugh when people are like, "Why is she laughing about this?"
We've all got our thing. I got tears. Kay. I got toilet paper right here, and I've got tears.
I was joking to you that I'm on Zoloft now, so I can't cry.
Yeah, you can't cry, and I was like, maybe I should be on Zoloft.
Oh, come on over.
So, you are what, like, as we say, 10 months pregnant? You're full term.
Oh yeah, no, I'm overdue.
You're overdue.
Yeah.
So you're 40 something weeks.
I think I was 42 weeks, just about. Yeah.
And you are your plan for your pregnancy at this point, are you going to have a natural delivery? Do you care? You're like, bring the drugs on.
That one.
Bring that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Bring the dang drugs on.
And I'm at a hospital. I'm at the biggest baby hospital in Canada.
Factory. Let's do it.
100%. Okay. Yeah.
So this is surprising to me that they let you go 42 weeks, but it's not really.
It's not really.
Here.
I don't know if it's no. Sorry, it wasn't 42 weeks. My former OB is going to kill me.
Yeah.
No, it was 41.
41.
It was a week,
weeks.
and they're much more cautious than midwives. Midwives will let you go longer.
I had a midwife.
Yes, yeah.
Now I went early. I went a week early.
Okay,
so it never came into question. Okay. But yes.
Yeah. So midwives, at least here, and again, this is all like the rules they vary based on where you're located. But here, your midwife couldn't. I have friends who went up to 2 weeks late. So I think I was maybe 6 or 7 days. Yeah, about afterwards. And so they scheduled me for an induction, which I was not thrilled about because I'd heard various reviews from other friends and women about what the induction was like.
Yeah.
But at a point you just realize like it's time to go. But I was doing all the things you're supposed to do, like the spicy foods and all that stuff, and just nothing was happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did they strip your membranes?
No. What? No, they didn't.
Okay, good. We don't need to talk about it then.
Or maybe they did. Sometimes stuff happened and I don't think anyone explained to me what it was. And I was just like, okay.
Yeah. But you were a chill mom or mother to be.
Yeah.
So you go into labor and everything's fine.
No. So what happens is the day before I'm scheduled for my in-hospital induction, I notice a steep change in movement. So I noticed that there's just not the same amount of movement that I would like. Now, mind you, Sam, our first son, was not a big kicker. He wasn't a crazy overactive kid.
So, but just for people who are listening, Sam is the baby that you're carrying at this time.
Sam is the baby I'm pregnant with at this time.
So not your first son, as in you already have a son.
Yes,
this is the baby. Okay.
Exactly. Okay, good placing. So Sam, who I'm pregnant with at the time, wasn't a big mover, but even for a baby to pregnancy where you're not getting a ton of movement, it really stopped moving. And I kind of just think something's up.
Because we also hear things as, people told me that was normal.
They're saving energy before their big reveal.
That's what I heard. Is that not true?
No. So there's quite the opposite. So there's lots of language that can confuse you. And so I called into the hospital and just told them on the floor what was going on. And they immediately said, come in. So they come in, they put all the little things, I come in, they put all the little things on me, and heartbeat's there, everything's fine, like in that sense, but he's not moving. And so the nurse there is like, I don't love it. So I'd rather you don't go home. You're going to be induced tomorrow anyways. So like,
his heartbeat's normal.
Heartbeat's normal. Okay. So we're like, okay. So my husband and I, at this point, you're like stressed. You can feel you're like, everything's starting to kind of get up and up.
I'm already starting to sweat.
Yeah.
Just because I know it's a crazy stressful time anyway, even if you're excited.
So women who've been through this, like anyone watching, is probably experiencing the same elevated heart rate. So relatable. So we get in and then they basically say, you can't go. Let's get you up into a room. So they get me up into a room and now it's all very regular. They start the Pitocin, which is the drug that makes you start
induce labor.
Exactly. And I have a very skilled OB there. My OB wasn't there that day, but this other OB is actually like even a higher risk OB. And she's the one who's like kind of the lead on the floor at that time. So she's there and she's checking everything and we're all in agreement that, the heart rate's there and we're proceeding with trying to do a vaginal delivery. But I could tell nobody quite liked what was happening. The nurse was never leaving the little computer that has all the flow on it. And I'm strapped into everything like a lot more, I think, than I was expecting. So the Pitocin starts, the contractions are intense. And then when the contractions start to get intense and they broke my water, they were like, we should be getting like more movement. And then all of a sudden it was just, we're going in for a C-section.
Okay. So for those of you listening, the water doesn't always break. Didn't break in either of my cases. They had to break the water. But there's no meconium at this point. There's no like reason for them to believe that, there's anything like what is the most alarming? The lack of movement?
100%.
The heartbeat?
Heartbeat was fine still, but the lack of movement was strange because of everything that's going on with the contractions and the Pitocin. Okay. So they just figured, let's go. Like, let's get this.
Get him out.
Yeah, 100%. And when I'm cool with that. So again, the vibe is let's go, but the vibe isn't completely freaked out.
Okay. And your husband's there with you.
He's there. We're both having a meltdown, like internally. I am like cool as a cucumber on the surface, but inside I am now starting to, for whatever reason, think something could be wrong. So we go into the OR, scrub in. Everything is, moving quickly, but like they asked me what music I wanted to have on. Oh my goodness. So I'm still kind of not alerted to anything. I don't get the sense that like there's something going super wrong. So then you always know, like, I don't know if you remember this, but when you're always told, like when you have a C-section, like you want to hear the baby cry right away. Or is that the same thing with vaginal too?
I did a natural childbirth with both.
Oh boy.
And because I was natural, when the baby came out, I was just so relieved for myself. Like the pressure was done that I don't remember feeling anxious about the baby's not crying.
Okay.
But now when I watch it on TV or I watch somebody else, I actually was there for somebody else's birth.
Okay.
I remember waiting just like pins and needles until the baby cried.
Yeah. And I think because I was already in this heightened state of anxiety, but I was on a ton of drugs too. I was on now like fentanyl. I'm on like a lot of different things.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I'm loopy. But then I deliver Sam and he is still alive, but there is something very wrong. So, he is very, very, very pale, like very, very deeply pale.
Did they put him on your chest?
No, he was immediately, then this is the other part. He was immediately rushed to pediatric, care. He was immediately I knew something's up. And so we're there. I'm still lying down on the table. You have to get stitched up. You've had an epidural.
Yeah.
So they basically say something's going on and we have to take the baby away. And we're sending our pediatric team in to talk to you in a second. So then they send in the team and my husband and I are a mess. And so they bring in the team and the team is saying, we still don't know what's happened, but your baby has lost a lot of blood. And I had not lost any blood. You imagine, like, it doesn't make any sense to me.
The blood is coming from Sam.
Mm-hmm. But there was nothing, you know what I'm saying? There's no visible blood. There's no bleeding. There's no anything.
So you're confused.
Everyone is confused. So then they notice that, he's very pale. He's lost a lot of blood and he's really not in good shape. So they immediately start taking.
Do they say like, okay, well, the blood's coming from?
They don't know at this point. They assume now because their eye wasn't bleeding, there was no like visible hemorrhage of any kind, that his blood somehow passed into my bloodstream. So they start taking blood from me so that they can test it to see if there's any of his blood in my bloodstream. So when they do that, they hold it off. But now we've got bigger issues. So we have to talk to the doctors and get a sense of what they think this is going to look like. Is this a survivable situation? And it wasn't. So he survived for about 6 hours.
So, okay.
Yeah.
Sam only survives for 6 hours, but where are you in this? So when do you know he's not going to survive?
Probably it's hard to say. The passage of time is a tricky one. I mean, it was a while. It was probably 2 hours at this point. And I don't know how else to explain it. I knew that this was I knew this was what was going to happen.
How did you know?
I don't know. I just felt like
mother's instinct or
maybe also too, I was just catastrophizing or trying to prepare myself for the worst case scenario, something like that. But I just thought to myself, this isn't good.
Who is the person communicating with you?
So there's a bunch of people. There's a pediatric team, which is his doctors. And then there's an OB team, which is my doctors. And I will say that the OB team in that moment did have better communication ability. And so they were communicating a lot of information to me in sort of like a rushed situation. Okay. So they were good.
So the person that has to tell you is...
The person who told me wound up being the OB who I think gave me the C-section, I'm pretty sure. But it would be in tandem with the pediatric team and all the other people who were there.
This is obviously traumatizing. So please, at any point, just say, Court, stop. But do you remember all of the details of that day, or have you purposefully?
Oh no, I remember all of them. Yeah. You're like, it's like you could like, it's like full snapshots for sure. And it took a long time for me to even be able to drive. The route to the hospital from our place is a very common route just to go downtown. And Hospital Row here in Toronto on University Avenue is a place where in order to go to like one of my best friend's houses, you go up and down. I couldn't even take that route for so long.
You know, I'm starting to tear up because, well, a lot of reasons.
Because it's horrible.
I'm a mother, it's awful. But also because it is not a natural thing for a pregnant mother to leave the hospital without a baby.
Oh my God.
And I know that because, oh jeez.
Okay.
Okay. Get it together, Kortney.
No, I'm used to it.
Okay.
Because
shortly after, so I have 2 biological children. We adopted our third. And when our daughter was born, shortly after, the agency had called us. Actually, it was Catholic Charities who had done the stuff to get us ready to adopt, not our agency, but and said we have a birth mother and she needs a place to stay. And so we know you have a 3-month-old or 2.5-month-old, but we are desperate. We have nobody to take her in or her 2-year-old son. And she was from Trinidad. And so they said, can you just take her in for 2 weeks until we find her place? Well, 2 weeks ended up being the entire pregnancy. And she lived with us, as did her 2-month-old son. And I ended up being in the room for her when she had her baby. So on, I haven't told this story in a long time, but basically a few months after I held my baby in my arms via adoption, I was on the other side of an adoption holding a birth mother.
Oh. Yeah, because she would have had to get ready to leave the hospital.
And I had to take her home.
Oh my God.
And that was the part that I did not understand or couldn't fully comprehend because the act of getting her out of the hospital was the hardest thing I ever had to do at that point.
Yeah.
And I never expected it. So did you have a similar experience leaving the hospital without Sam? And did you ever get to hold him?
Yes, I did. And I didn't know that I wanted to because I was so afraid of the flow of emotions and like the guilt and just the feelings. You're in hell. But they had a really, really sort of stoic. And again, this is a hospital that deals with a lot. Like we're talking, they've seen it all. And so they are experts at things to do with babies. And in these moments, I think they really shone. And they said, no one's pushing you in any direction, but we do know that statistically speaking, women and mothers and families who meet their child, even after they know they're going to lose them, report much better psychological feelings months and months later. We have the research. We're the
I've
experts.
actually heard that as well because of adoption. When they're placing their babies for adoption, it's a loss in that moment.
Yes.
And they actually encourage the birth mothers to hold the babies. And I held my daughter before the birth, but the birth mother had chosen not to.
Oh.
And I actually encouraged her in the hospital to, I wouldn't say, I definitely didn't push her, but I asked her a few times and I said, would you like to?
Okay.
And she said, no. And the night of the first day that I was there, she called my room. I also had a room.
Yeah.
And she called me and said, I would like to hold Lennox now.
Oh my gosh.
And
that could make me cry.
Yeah. And she held her and she was like saying hello and goodbye all at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah.
So anyway, I'm glad you got that experience.
Me too. It was really special. And I went into group therapy, obviously, afterwards. And I think that was something that so many of the moms and the dads that we met in group therapy said was that, meeting your child and getting to hold them and especially getting to take photos.
Yeah. Oh, you did that?
Yeah, we did. And so
did they have like a special photographer there that did that?
No, it was just the social worker. Yeah, it was just the social worker who came in, and she was great. And she had done this before. So we did that. And then we had that photo was turned into like a painting because it was kind of hospital-y looking. Yeah. So we turned it into kind of like a warmer painting. They handled it really well, but I did not want to stay in the hospital. I wanted to get out. Oh. Yeah. I wanted to flee.
But he had already passed.
He had already passed away. Yeah. Yeah. So I was never going to leave until that had happened.
Yeah. Were you able to hold him as he passed? Like, did he pass through you or
No, it was more of they had to make him comfortable. And so I think that was the trickiest part is that, you're going to meet him for a moment and, but we have to focus on making sure that he's very comfortable because it's, kind of end stages here. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to leave that with the medical professionals. And I don't know that I could handle it at the time. Like, you never know what to do. You don't think you're ever going to be in this situation. Yeah. You feel as though you're watching aliens land on your front lawn. Yeah. I mean, you have no way of ever knowing how you're going to handle these situations. And I just felt I could only handle so much. And then that was it. So yeah, we stayed in the hospital. Again, I'd had a C-section. So I did have to stay. I had to stay in recovery.
For a couple of days, probably.
They let me go early. And I worked to get out.
Your husband, how was he during this process, and how did the two of you
sort of work
together? Mm-hmm. Like, yeah.
Yeah, we were lockstep, I would say, pretty well. So we're good. We're a pretty solid team. And so he was very supportive of me. I was very supportive of him. The hospital was very supportive of us. Again, COVID. So they're not saying everyone come in and visit. It's a very different vibe at the hospitals right now. So it's not a lot of visitors, no friends, no family coming in. They allowed my parents to come in, briefly, and then they could leave. But nobody was sort of staying overnight or around. My friends aren't coming, all that stuff. So they did move us to a different wing of the hospital because they didn't want me to hear babies crying.
Oh my goodness, I didn't even think of that.
And then they put a little butterfly on the door for a loss, like a baby loss, to give a heads up as they change staffed so that everybody knows you're dealing with the sensitive case here.
Wow. So there really are some things in place.
Oh man. And those systems, they really matter, and they matter for subsequent pregnancies. It's a big deal. So we got out, I think it was probably a day later. It wasn't long.
So you get home and, the next few days when you should be posting,
Oh yeah.
He's here. Messages.
Oh.
And you've already told your listeners that you're expecting a baby.
I'm off on mat leave. And I was late. Like he was, Sam was past his due date. So I'm now starting to get DMs from people saying,
are you going to post pictures soon?
Yeah. Is he here yet? Is he here yet? So many is he here yet kind of thing.
And how did you respond to that?
I didn't respond to any of them. Yeah.
Is that something that people should not do?
Probably not. I understand why they, again, who's going to think this will happen? The statistical likelihood of what happened to me happening.
Yeah, what is the statistically likely?
Very slim. I think it's something. So ultimately what they did, figure out had happened was something called a fetal-maternal hemorrhage, which is precisely as it sounds, where the baby's blood, there's some sort of a hemorrhage and the baby's blood passes through the placenta into your bloodstream. So there is no bleeding.
Internal hemorrhage.
Yeah.
So before he was even born, he was bleeding out.
They found it. They have a placenta expert named Dr. Kingdom, who was my subsequent OB. The man is a genius. He has set up this placenta clinic at Mount Sinai Hospital here in Toronto, and he deals with all these high risk, and he's the placenta expert. And the thing I love about Mount Sinai is that even though my OB, she looked at the report and nothing was glaringly obvious, but she said, there is a little blood clot in your placenta. There's a little something, but I know enough to know what I don't know. I'm not the placenta expert, and we have one here. So I'm going to send it to him for review. And so he had a chance to review it and tell me unequivocally, this is what did it. This is how it happened. Your baby wouldn't have suffered. You couldn't have known.
Did that give you peace?
100%. So much. Because if you want to try again and you don't have any answers, I don't know that we would have been able to go forward and try again.
Okay, this is an interesting question. Did you come home... trying again isn't on your radar in that
In the first few weeks after, I was sort of delusional and crazy. I was really like, I don't know what I was going through. And you also still get all the hormones that you would have.
Yeah, your milk's coming in.
Your milk is coming in. but you're also getting those big rises
Rushes,
and falls
yeah.
of really, really happy, really, really sad. So you're still doing all of this stuff. They did put me on a drug to stop my milk from coming in, which was very effective. And other women in group therapy that I met, they didn't have that. And I'm like, why would your doctors not have done this for you?
I don't know why they didn't do that to the one, I'm not going to say her name, but who was staying with me, because that was really hard for her.
Yes.
Her milk was coming in and she was, busting at the seams, as they say, and she just had nowhere to go.
Some of this is really just about awareness in the hospitals and within the medical system. Yeah. So they were great about that. So so I get home and there were moments where I thought to myself, I'm going to have 4 kids now. My husband's like, who are you?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It was really strange.
Where would why do you feel you felt that way in that moment?
I don't
and
know.
do you still feel that way?
No, I don't. Absolutely not. No, it was a period of time where I felt that way. And I think it was almost this desire to kind of come out the other side and feel good again. And I was like, maybe this will be a very hopeful thing for me. Oh, we're going to have all these kids now. And
like, this is what's going to come out of it. Is that I didn't want just one, I want 4. I want as many as I can. And that never would have happened without the loss of Sam.
Yeah. And now, and then you get to the other side of that and you're like, no, I actually don't know if I can like ever do this again. It's so scary. But yeah, it was right around the time that we did find out what happened and we felt more informed.
Did you ever make an announcement on social media?
Oh yeah.
What did that look like?
That was hard. It's hard to find the wording of it, but at this point I was being inundated with questions, as was the radio station. So the pressure of knowing that this was looming, that I had to make this very sad announcement, I didn't enjoy that feeling. So once I knew it needed to happen, I wanted it to happen quickly. So I just put out a simple text announcement about, at this point, I didn't 100% know what had happened. So I just asked everybody for privacy, but alerted them to this fact. And the outpouring of support was overwhelming. I mean, the station, they couldn't believe it there. I couldn't believe it on my personal socials. It was overwhelming and so thoughtful. And so many women who had losses, reached out.
Was there ever really a consideration for not making an announcement, since you kind of are a public figure at this point?
I didn't have a choice, I don't think, because everybody would have just expected you to. You had to.
You had to.
Yeah.
But I guess you don't regret that, because you did get the support.
I did get the support. And also you get the chance to connect with so many women who've been through things.
Tell me about that, because that is, I feel like by sharing my shit stick of life stories and by, propelling myself into meaningful next chapters, has come all of these other people out there saying, you've given me permission in some ways to grieve something I've never grieved. You've given me, the strength to share something I've never shared. And I don't know why I'm surprised by it, because I think that it's influenced even me doing this podcast, the fact that other people have shared.
Yeah. It's something we all benefit from, but I think not everyone feels ready or wants to step into it themselves. You don't know how you're going to feel about sharing deeply personal stuff until I think you kind of start doing it. And you also see what the response is. So I think because the response was so positive and I did form these really fast connections with people through that, I knew it was the right thing to do. I knew it was the right approach for me.
So you've gone through like the worst kind of loss, the hardest kind of loss. Is there a right and a wrong thing to say?
I would say the only wrong thing to say is nothing. So,
which is sometimes what people say because they don't know what the right thing to say is.
Yes. Yeah. Or they think perhaps one of my girlfriends, and she did acknowledge the passing. I mean, there were people we knew in our lives who never said anything to us, where the last chat you would have had with them was joking about your kids' Tiger Woods golf skills or going to be a hockey player or something like that. And then
nothing.
Nothing. And I think the problem with that is it freezes that relationship at that point. So your relationship now is stalled in a place where you were still expecting a baby. You've moved on and all of these things have happened and you're a completely different person. And that friend hasn't really come along with you for the ride. And now for me, not in a, I hate you, don't ever talk to me ever again kind of way, but I just don't think I know you anymore. I just don't think you know me and I just don't think I know you.
So it would be better to just say, I don't know what the hell to say.
For sure. And so I had a girlfriend who did acknowledge it and we had talked lots, but she wanted to keep reaching out and ask how I was doing. But she said, I don't want to reach out when you're having a good day and then make you feel sad.
Did anyone use humor?
Some people use humor, people for sure with me.
With
yeah,
you?
they did. Yeah.
And did it work?
It did. It always, I love humor. I love a laugh. And when she said that to me, I was like, oh girl, I'm never having a good day.
Yeah.
Nothing you say can make me feel worse than I already feel. So don't worry. But I said, it's just nice when people tell you they're thinking about you. Yeah, it's always nice.
When they're treating you like a person.
Yes.
Knew that you've got dark humor on your side and you love that. And so the fact that people were able to dig into that obviously was a good thing for you.
Yeah.
Okay. So you are, was there anything anybody said to you that was profoundly helpful or shifted your way of thinking into the next chapter?
There were a few things along the way that I really liked. So one was in therapy. I was in a lot of therapy.
Yeah. Were you doing therapy before?
No, I mean, I had therapy before, but not like this.
Okay.
So this was
like individual therapy or group therapy?
Yeah. So I was doing individual therapy. My husband and I were together with a woman a doctor who specializes in pregnancy loss.
Okay.
They call it late term or full term pregnancy loss. It's her specialty. And she and another social worker who are incredibly skilled lead this group. And it is a renowned in the city group of group therapy for late loss. But she also has a private practice. And so she agreed to take us on as clients in her private practice. So we were seeing her privately and we were also in group therapy. And then she recommended to me another therapist to do with just myself, CBT. So cognitive behavioral therapy. So at this point I'm not working. So I'm in therapy as my job. My therapy was my job for a while.
This is an interesting question too. Like I think, first of all, when people say mat leave, they mean maternity leave. I say that because where I come from, we don't have maternity leave.
Yes. Yeah.
My maternity leave was I would like to take off a couple of weeks unpaid and then go back to work and pump from my car at lunch. Did you get a maternity leave?
Yeah, so I was entitled to a form of leave that wouldn't have been the full maternity leave, but it was, I forget how long it was, but it was then transferred into a short-term disability leave through my place of work. And they were not rushing me to come back. I mean, no one was rushing me to come back. So we had the loss on March 14th, and I didn't go back to work until September. Yeah.
What was the worst day during that process? Was there your lowest point?
It's probably the few days after you get home, the few weeks after. I had people in group and in the loss community refer to it as the black hole. That is what it is. So you're in a black hole. You are just struggling to get through the day. You're on a lot of medications to sleep and to stay sort of level. And there is no concept of the passage of time. Weeks just come and go. The sun comes up, it goes down. You feel nothing.
Do you feel like Sam lived for 6 hours? So he did in fact live. But how do you refer to him in that sense? Like he died?
Yeah.
He passed on?
I think I said passed on a lot. I don't know why passed on always feels a little more, I don't know, soft.
Yeah.
So I said passed on. I did say died though. Yeah, it would be one of those two. And I did want to try to be as clear as I could without getting into details all the time. But it was about the fact that I had a full-term loss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything in holding Sam that you were like, God, I love this kid? Like, what did you get to know about him in just those few hours?
It wasn't really that. It was more like you're so aware of all the things converging at once.
Yeah.
And I was mostly just worried.
Yeah.
I will say you're pretty worried.
You weren't concentrating on like who he looked like or
no, I'm worried about him being comfortable. I'm worried about what do the next couple of hours look like? How's my husband doing?
Yeah.
How are our families doing? People are now calling us. Like, so you start to get into the urgent logistics at hand and only in
Would you call those getting into the weeds a little bit? Like you weren't in the moment, like you're not allowed to be in the moment?
Yeah, you kind of aren't. And you have a lot of decisions to make, which feel, and I know this is familiar to people who've lost children, but also lost loved ones to anything, that you have to still make all these decisions.
Yeah.
So you're still being asked to make decisions all the time and you're being updated. Yeah. And it's very distressing because you also have to, they ask, do you want to have an autopsy? Well, of course you want to have an autopsy. In my mind, of course I want to have an autopsy, but some people don't. And so then they want to know, then you have to make arrangements with a funeral home. Like you think the whole world should just stop and it doesn't. Yeah. So when you still have to keep dealing with these things, it was really hard. And I compartmentalized, just me personally, I can go into moving forward mode very quickly. And the reverse for me is I have to stop and slow down and process.
That's how I am too.
Yeah. So that was what therapy was good for, is because I could create a time and place to really grieve and to talk about how I was feeling and to not just try to completely.
You're high functioning. So you can just, skip all that and just go back to work and figure it out and
very that.
Make everybody else feel okay about what they're saying around you and doing around you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you had to slow down.
Yeah.
Was there a pivotal moment in this that where you learned how to carry your grief?
Yeah, I think I was really bolstered by the writings of Dr. Edith Eger. She's a Holocaust survivor. She's I think she's 94 years old now. She's so wise.
She's still living.
Yeah, she's still living, and she's still doing speeches and stuff. And she has an incredible amount of knowledge on suffering, human suffering. But what I appreciated about her writing was that it was always from a place of, I'm moving forward. And I listened to a lot of her interviews on podcasts. I read The Choice and The Gift. And I just thought so much of her advice around how no one can take away from you what you put into your own mind. That was a huge thing for her.
Wait, slow that one. Nobody can take away from you what you put into your own mind.
Mm-hmm. And it was advice, which is, this almost makes me cry, but she said it was advice that her mom gave to her when they were going to Auschwitz. So she's told this by her mom to, stay strong because no one can take anything away from you that you have in your own mind. And so that was good for me. I really appreciated hearing that. And she talked a lot about going through these dark places that she, kind of walks through the valley of the shadow of death, but she doesn't stay there. She doesn't live there. She would say, I don't set up tent there. I'm not, And so I would try to say, okay, I'll pass through these moments where I'm going to feel really, really sad. But like a wave, this is going to end. Some waves of grief will knock you off your feet.
Do you believe that's a choice?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. But I did, I was called to this type of person and this type of recovery and information after this happened, just inherently.
When did you decide to talk about other kids and the potential of getting pregnant again?
Once we had the answer from our
placenta about the
once Dr. Kingdom, the placenta expert, the guru, once he said, this is what happened, it is the same as a tire blowing up on the highway. Why does one person's tire explode on the highway and someone else's doesn't? We don't know. But all I can tell you is that statistically speaking, you are now back in the exact same group you were when you tried and got pregnant with Sam. And he is this incredible doctor. And he said, and if you feel brave enough to try again, I would love to take you on as a patient.
When did you feel brave enough?
Well, I think it was not long after he had that call with me, which would have been probably August.
So how long after Sam's death?
So Sam died on March 14th. So August, we start getting real clear answers. Like it's all very locked away.
And you decide we're going to try again.
We thought we'll give it a little bit of time. And so we started to try. And again, I got pregnant right away.
Fertile Myrtle over here. So you got pregnant right away. Were you scared or were you like, yeehaw?
I was pretty yeehaw. I was pretty thrilled about this. I was scared. I think, and my psychiatrist had identified this with me, but because my loss was so late and my pregnancy was so healthy and normal, she said, you are probably going to go through a lot of distress right at the end. At the end. Yeah.
Right. Because none of your trauma was actually at the beginning.
None.
You knew that you could carry the baby all the way to the end.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Was your husband in the same boat, or was he like a rock? Was he like, let's do this? Or
no, he was very excited. He was very emotional, very happy. He was thrilled with the outcome. And he just wanted to support me. And I think because of the very, very extended support I then received in my subsequent pregnancy from the hospital, I mean, we're talking any test I wanted, walk in there any time of day.
Like, yep.
We got you. We will always hold your hand and tell you this is going to be okay. And give you all the extra testing and we will have a birth plan. You will have a planned C-section 2 weeks early. Yeah.
Was that a big thing for you? Because you wanted to make sure that the baby came out before.
Huge.
I bet. And they were all on board.
Oh yeah.
For you with that. Mm-hmm. So you did plan a C-section and you have a beautiful baby.
I do.
Boy.
Yeah.
His name is
Will.
Will. Mm-hmm. How old is he now?
He's 2.5.
Okay. Mm-hmm. How have you honored Sam?
Man,
and do you talk to Will about Sam?
We do. So we cremated Sam and we keep his ashes in Will's room, which was originally Sam's nursery. And so it was on a little shelf, and we thought about it. We said, do we keep it there?
Trying to make me cry.
Sorry. We really liked it. I really loved the feeling of him being.
I love this so much.
Yeah, I was like, I kind of want him home. So we would talk about Sam, and then there's the painting of us that we have where we're holding Sam is in our bedroom. And so we would tell him, this is Sam, this is your older brother. And he's a Leo, and Will's a very outgoing young kid. He would be like, that's me. I look cute. That's me. And we're like, no, that's Sam. And he's like, oh yeah, that's Sam. Hi, Sam. And he'll say hi to Sam, and he'll kiss his little urn. And kids, they know what you tell them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, my daughter is adopted, and she has a book in her room with pictures of her and her adopted mother, her and her birth mother.
Yeah.
On the day that she was born. And it's a part of her story. Mm-hmm. So people always say, well, when did you tell her? I'm like, she's never not known.
Yeah.
Just as Will never not know that he had a brother.
Exactly. And we want it to feel very present in our lives, and we don't want to push it away and hide it and make it this thing that no one can talk about. Yeah. We have the urn at home. We have our nice painting. We have tattoos. We both make sure.
What's your tattoo of?
Okay. So I have Sam's name here.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
Yeah. And I actually had the little halo added this year on his birthday. And then I have a matching one of Will on my other arm.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. And it's nice because people will ask you about it, and then you can kind of tell them.
You're honoring him.
Yeah. So we do that. And my husband takes the day off work every year for his birthday. I would too. So we want to make sure that there's a bit of a celebratory thing.
Of course.
And we'll see how it makes Will feel, obviously, as we go and decide what works and what maybe doesn't.
Does Will act like a firstborn or a secondborn?
I don't know. My friends feel like he's a secondborn. Yeah.
His birth order is a real thing.
Yeah. He feels a little bit younger brother.
Yeah. Wild child.
Yeah. He's very that. And so Sam, as my pregnancy progressed, I didn't have any morning sickness. He was a very, very chill baby. He didn't move a lot, which is why the lack of movement was this confusing piece for me. So he wasn't a big kicker. Enter second baby Will. I have morning sickness. He is kicking me immediately all the time, which was such a blessing because my fear around this lack of movement was very real. And so I felt as though this was the perfect child to be pregnant with because he just kicked the crap out of me from the minute that his legs could move. I have videos of my stomach where you can just see, it's like he's trying to escape. So that was a relief to me because I never had to do I was constantly counting his kicks, but it would always put me at ease.
Does the grief ever overwhelm you now, or has time healed?
Yeah, sometimes it does. There was a period, there will be periods where I just feel down, or it's usually when you're worn out in life, a lot of other stuff starts to happen and you just kind of feel like your walls start to get scrubbed away a bit, and then all of that can come out. And sometimes I feel like I haven't talked about him enough, or I haven't thought about Sam enough. And so I'm drawn to thinking of him or looking at photos. It's like
but you don't feel guilty.
No, I never feel guilty. Okay. But I just notice that life gets so busy that I haven't slowed down and thought about it for a minute. And I feel like when I notice that, I go, oh, it's important to do. Or my husband and I will say, hey, we haven't talked about him or how we're doing with it recently. And so we make an effort to talk.
Well, you did create a foundation though.
Yes, we did.
So
so right after it happened, I thought, we have to make this announcement. It's going to be public. How can we turn this awful situation into hopefully something fairly positive? And because we were seeing the expert care that we were receiving, even in this horrible situation from Mount Sinai, we thought, let's create a fund so that when we make the announcement that we lost Sam, we can at least direct people who are going to want to help to fundraise for Mount Sinai Hospital. So when we posted that, it was probably a week after, and immediately somehow we raised, I think it was in the end, $42,000.
Good for you.
Yeah, it was great.
Good for you. And if people want to donate now, how
it's
can
still
they do that?
active. It's still active in the link in my bio. Okay. Yeah, and
we'll make sure all of those are in the show notes.
Great.
Because I know that there are going to be a lot of women and parents out there that identify with this, and
maybe even others.
Yeah. And it's great. It goes towards research grants. I mean, they did a really cool thing. I think they awarded last year's grant to a doctor who was developing a really key and a cheap and easy urine test to identify preeclampsia. So they're doing amazing work at Mount Sinai Hospital, and your money could not be going to a better place.
Well, I really hope also, for those of you out there who hear this story and identify with some part of it, I hope that you guys comment and anything from what's the craziest thing anybody's ever said to you, and let's laugh about this, to, I need support, because it sounds like when you did talk about it, when you did reveal what you had gone through, that's when people were there to support you.
They really were.
How can they support you if they don't know?
Exactly. And mostly I was blown away by the kindness in people's heart. And I was so touched to then have women reach out to me months and months later who had a loss, or to have their families reach out to me and say, I have a daughter who just lost her baby, and I listened to you on Chum or on the Jan Arden podcast, and what should I do, or how can I help, or what was the group that you saw for therapy, or what, they all just want to know. And I loved being able to kind of be that light on a dark path for people.
I'd actually love to put that in the show notes as well, because the therapy portion to this is really great, especially group therapy when people can't afford individualized therapy. Like that's good. That's really important. Okay. So now you're a mother. What's the hardest part?
Being old. I'm kind of an old mom.
You're not.
I mean, I am a bit. So yeah, I think I also can get really overstimulated, and the constant sort of talking at you that they do. And I can't even I don't want to bring my phone out around him.
You're in radio.
I know.
And you just said the constant talking that they do at you. It's hilarious.
It's a different kind of talking. And you know what I mean?
I know.
That they're just, they really need a type of undivided attention from you, and they deserve it. But it means that nothing else can get done. Yeah. And I also don't ever want to look at my phone around him, because I don't want him to become, weird about phones and screens, which he inherently already is. Yeah. Fine. But so I go for huge periods of time without checking my phone now, which is great.
Good for you.
But it also nags at you when you have things, or,
because your whole world is on your phone now.
Yes.
I don't even know how I'd raise kids if I had to start over right now. I honestly couldn't even have that discussion, because I have no idea, because it was different for me.
Yeah.
Like my oldest, is 21 now. So
the phones weren't such a thing. The
phones weren't such a thing until they were in middle school. So, it was still too early. Okay, what's the most fun part of parenting for you?
I love how funny he is. He's really
he's your kid. Hello.
He's funny. He loves doing a bit, and he gets when you're laughing at something, and he keeps doing it. Oh. So he does a thing where every time he drinks from his bottle, he pulls it and goes, that's nice. To make me laugh.
You?
Yeah. Only if we're watching him and doing
He's
it.
like a walking brand deal right now.
Yeah. He's very funny. So, and I do bedtimes, and he loves cuddles before bed. I'll steal all the cuddles I can. It's the only benefit to them ever getting sick, because when they're sick, they're extra cuddly. So I love that.
When my kids were sick, especially my oldest, he did not want to be held a lot. So when he was sick, that was about the only time that he wanted to be held, and it was glorious.
It's the best.
Advice that you have for moms to be out there struggling with the idea that anything could go wrong at any time.
Oh, don't do that to yourself, honestly, because you're catastrophizing. And if there's no way that I could ever have known what was going to happen to me, it's impossible. And I do think there's some magical thinking around how to approach things and how to protect yourself. And it's all just a crapshoot. And so everyone is taking such a huge risk to an extent when they do anything in life. When you decide who you're going to partner with, when you move to a different city, when you
don't borrow trouble,
that's the thing.
The troubles that is not here yet. Don't borrow it.
Don't worry about those things. You have to go forward, because we never worry about good things happening, and good things happen all the time. So I don't ever want my story to take up space in that way, where they go, oh, well, this pregnancy, this was such a one-off, and now I have an amazing son. And so, we wouldn't have gotten Will had we not lost Sam. So there's a lot of complexities there.
Very interesting that you said that, because we went through a failed adoption.
Okay.
Where we supported a birth mother for many, many, many months. And the day before that she had that baby, she decided that she wasn't going to place her for adoption. And when I was holding Lennox for the first time, my now daughter, via adoption, the only thing that I could think about was thanking the first birth mother, even though I felt the loss, just like I wouldn't say it's identical to somebody who carried a child who miscarried early on, not even close to what you went through. I'm not making that comparison in any way.
No, it's different, but it is a loss.
But it was a loss for me. I was the greatest loss of my life in that moment. I felt very grateful because I wouldn't have Lennox, and Lennox was born to be my child. And so I'm grateful that you have Will, and I'm grateful that you had Sam
me too.
for that very short period of time. And I really appreciate you being on this podcast today, Caitlin.
Thank you so much for having me and letting me tell my story.
My pleasure. Find new episodes of the Shit Stick of Life podcast every other Thursday. Follow and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts.